A Guide to Life Under Fascism. Hi, I'm Nicholas Crawford. I wrote The Literary Apocalypse with Zombies Where We've Made It Dark, which is about how one lives as the world ends, step by step by step. And there are 4 main points of freedom one can find in the midst of fascism. Now, fascism is not simply political power and force used in a way that we don't like. Fascism is when one puts the ills of society onto an enemy figure and holds this enemy figure responsible, and as such takes political action to control, punish, condemn, and destroy this figure. So the structure of fascism is an infinite heaping of violence onto an enemy figure, and it requires new enemy figures when the old one gets destroyed. So when one says fascism, one has to be very clear that this is the structure we are talking about. The first thing one can do under fascism is to take some form of action. This can range from extreme to little things, but what qualifies this action is that there is a point that one refuses within the system. We say that this is unacceptable and life cannot go on until it is changed. So there is zero capitulation or negotiation with the fascist and their logic. It is a point of pure refusal, and this is what interrupts the workings of fascism. What this denies or avoids is the way in which one can instead fall into an action in order to avoid actually changing anything. So saying, I donated, I protested, now I go back to my daily life. Instead, one does not change or go back to daily life. So even though obviously life must continue in some form, this is a rigid point of refusal. The second is a self-directed cut. You look at the way in which you enjoy within the fascist system, and you target and destroy it. So when Disney fires Jimmy Kimmel and suppresses free speech, you say enough is enough and stop enjoying Disney the way that you used to. The point isn't to find some ethical purity or a spot of full removal from society, but you make a rigid insistence on a certain point and you genuinely remove yourself from it. The third move is similar, in opting out. One can find enjoyment outside of one's system through habit and sheer rigid will. So this is a hobby, basically. A hobby can give one freedom from one's own environs, and you rigidly insist upon your enjoyment of the hobby. This is different from the buffer that ideology gives and requires people in order to be better functionaries within ideology. So a classic example is a soldier who thinks he's a good person and a family man as he goes out and destroys other families. Here with the habit and with the hobby, one forges out a territory of enjoyment that is removed from one's own system, even if there are points of connection, such as the way in which one has to consume to some degree to actually have a hobby. So while this is not the end all be all, it does achieve a mode of freedom and life that isn't connected to the system. And the fourth point of freedom within fascism is actually in overconformity, where you cling too tight to the rules of the system and your position in it. So easy examples are Stepford Wives, where you rigidly cling to being the housewife, and in so doing, make the subtext text, make the unspoken rules spoken, and you make the system stop working so well. It puts hiccups and short circuits into its smooth functioning. There is something to be said about our era's shamelessness and how terrible things occur out in the open and are either flatly denied or not denied. But either way, overconformity does interrupt smooth functioning and stops plausible deniability. So it does still have a role here. So whether the weight of fascism is virtual or real in your daily life, these are the 4 points at which one finds freedom from fascism: taking action, a self-directed cut at one's own enjoyment, opting out, and overconformity. These are the 4 things that target the way in which politics gets mobilized to blame an enemy figure for all of the ills of society. This is how one opts out.